Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the SCB Steelers Podcast presented by Deck Roofing Incorporated of South Florida. We are very proud to be part of the Variety Sports Network, and I'm coming to you from the studio that shall remain nameless because it doesn't have a name right now. Welcome in, everybody. Lots of activity in the chat already. Vinny kind of stole my thunder a little bit here already with his comment about playing the JV Lions. I'll get to that shortly. I see Aaron's in. Good evening, Bill. Hope everybody's good down there. And Scarps. Oh, there's Scarpino.
There's Scarpino.
We
Vacation Ian all I ever wanted.
a little
Ian a getaway.
Hey, I'm always good for some Belinda Carlisle. I mean, come on. She was one of my faves when I was younger, man. Absolutely.
Listen.
Mm-hmm. So interesting lineup tonight because we thought we'd have Ben, but not Ian. Ian is vacation Ian.
Yeah.
And
Ian is at the beach.
Yeah, and Ben is
committed though. Goddamn, bless it.
Yeah, he's a hardworking man. I mean, my God. So hopefully he can join us at some point. My guess is he's probably tuning in and will chime in the comments.
Yeah, of course,
because that's him. Anyway, everybody, again, welcome in. Whether you are joining us via the YouTube or you check us out in audio, thank you so much for doing so. A lot to discuss. Obviously, the Steelers lost 9-3. It's kind of like the Pirates losing a game there. 9-3 to the Bills. They had a couple of opportunities. Mike Tomlin went for it on fourth down, and both times it failed. And so that's where we are. The offense is in trouble. And again, to refer back to something that Vinny pointed out in the chat, are we going to get a sense of overconfidence with so many starters scheduled to play and the Lions scheduled to play not many starters? You know, I guess I'd rather have that, Ian, than if we go out and look absolutely terrible against the Lions' second-team defense.
Yeah, I mean, you want to see them start to put some things together, but also last year we looked awesome in the preseason and everyone was ready to run the table, and then we came out and laid a dud in the regular season. So, let's not read too much into the preseason. The Lions that went 0-16, and I think the Browns that went 0-16 went undefeated in the preseason. So
4-0 in the preseason.
Yeah, so winning preseason games really at the end of the day just means that your third and fourth stringers are better than the other team's third and fourth stringers. So it wins and losses mean nothing in the preseason. I'm not going to get worked up about it.
No, me neither. Scarps, if you are Mike Tomlin, are you playing your starters on Saturday?
I mean, it's yes, I am, and I know that it's a third preseason game. They don't get 4 anymore, but man, I just haven't seen enough out of this first team offense that makes me believe that they're, on to something special or, they're on to progress. And I get that last year was last year. In the preseason, we thought they were great and they sucked. But, preseason football is more about evaluating players than it is evaluating teams. And if I'm Mike Tomlin, I have to say I need to evaluate some players, particularly on offense. and the last couple years have been foreign territory for Mike Tomlin. He doesn't have his franchise quarterback. He doesn't have a necessarily established wide receiver or offensive line. So, people are going to say, "Oh, don't worry about preseason." I don't know, especially at this point in this season. I think they need to play a little bit more And now, as I say that, fourth quarter last game, I was like, why is Justin Fields still playing? Because if Russell Wilson gets hurt,
right?
Do I have faith in Kyle Allen? No. Is he better than Kenny Pickett? Yes, but no. But you know what I mean?
For the record, it went 5+ minutes, and then he mentioned Kenny Pickett. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. That's what she said. But the point, 5+ minutes is good. But I just, preseason doesn't mean it. Preseason, all this week on Twitter, people were like, preseason doesn't mean anything. Preseason isn't real football. I call bullshit on that because preseason football exists. It is there. It is in, do the stats count as much as the regular season? Regular season, no. But preseason football is real. It exists, and you can pick and choose how you want to analyze it. But
yes,
this preseason performance so far has been terrible on offense. It's been terrible.
There is a reason they play preseason games.
Yes.
I mean, you can't compare it to your local high school or that has their 1 or 2 scrimmages or 0 week or something like that. And you nailed it. What the preseason is, it's player evaluation. Would Mike Tomlin have gone for it on 4th down in those situations in a regular season game? I don't think so. Okay. No. He's trying to evaluate players and situations and so we should have all learned a valuable lesson last year when that group went 3-0 and we thought, oh boy, this is it. And then San Francisco just took us to the woodshed and it was like, okay, back to square one. The preseason is there for a reason. There's no doubt in my mind. Ian, would you play your starters? I'm on the side of definitely my offensive guys. My defensive guys maybe not as much, but definitely offensive.
Yeah, I mean, there's some defensive guys like TJ Watt, Minka Fitzpatrick. They don't need to play, but Cam Hayward doesn't need to play. The older veterans. Some of the newer guys, though, like your Dante Jacksons and your JPJs, you could throw them in there for a series or two. It wouldn't hurt, especially because they're still trying to figure out who the starting slot corner is and all that. On offense, I would definitely play the starters. The offensive line needs help, needs work, needs practice in front of whoever's playing. And now with Herbig injured, they all need practice with Zach Frazier at center too, which, I mean, I think they've gotten some of that because everyone knew Frazier was going to be the starter. The people that were tweeting like presumed starter Herbig, I'm like, hold on a minute. Like he was not the presumed starter from anyone that was paying attention. But yeah, I mean, the offense needs work. And to your point about Tomlin going for it in those situations, I took that as he absolutely did not want to go to overtime in a preseason game, and that was all that it is.
I don't think they even have them anymore, do they? Didn't they get rid of overtime?
Maybe they did, but he didn't want to end in a tie, right? He was like, we're not going to tie this stupid game.
I agree.
We're either going to win or lose because it doesn't matter. And I would rather see how my guys perform in a clutch situation and go for it than kick a field goal because I know how my field goal team can do. So that's kind of how I took it. And I think we did learn some things about Justin Fields in the clutch, and they were not good things. That it was, the first 4th down when they went for it, everybody in the world knew it was going to be a read option and Fields was going to keep it. And then when it's 1-on-5, you're like, maybe we should have called a different play there.
There's like 3 main topics I want to talk about, and unfortunately they're all kind of coming to this epicenter at the same time. Clifford just pointed out a little bit about Broderick Jones and the O-line. I want to talk about that. And as you just mentioned, Justin Fields, and then a little bit more about the secondary, which you kind of alluded to slot corner there as well. Do you think that they kept that play as vanilla? Scarps, I'll ask you this first. Like Ian said, everybody knew it was read option coming. If that's regular season, do you think maybe there's a little twist to it? or was that really going to be the play? I mean, who didn't know that they weren't going to put the ball in Justin Fields' hands?
Fair question. All this week on Steelers X, though, I heard that, of course Arthur Smith is not going to show his cards because they're playing the Falcons week 1. Well, Arthur Smith was the Falcons head coach for 3 years. They went 7-10, 7-10, and 7-10, and he was their primary play caller. So I'm seeing a pattern here that I do not like. And whether that's vanilla or not is irrelevant. Because the Falcons defense has been beefed up. Signed Justin Simmons.
Yep.
They signed they traded for Matthew Judon, and they just signed AJ Terrell to an extension today. So Steelers fans thinking that game 1 in Atlanta was going to be the Arthur Smith revenge game. I don't know.
I'm sure he would like it to be, but I mean, if you would have asked me, say, 6 weeks ago, I would have felt a hell of a lot better about that game than I do now.
Yeah, and again, people are like, "Oh, preseason doesn't matter." I don't know. I think it matters and it doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say, I think it definitely matters when you have a new offensive coordinator and a new offense coming off of 2 straight seasons where it was terrible. So really I think we should be more cognizant of what is happening on offense and not just dismiss it as, they'll figure it out. They'll get it right.
No, it's a good point. And Ian, I mean, you've seen enough preseason in your lifetime. Obviously, teams don't want to give away too much, but at the same time, I mean, it really did look like the Steelers offensively were pretty much running the same little batch of plays the whole time, just maybe out of some different formations and stuff. Would you like to see them work a little more in-depthly on their offense, or are you confident that, hey, they're professionals, they'll be fine when the rubber meets the road type thing?
I'm confident that if Russell Wilson's the quarterback, they can figure it out a bit more when the rubber meets the road, just because of his experience and him knowing, okay, on this play, this guy's going to run this type of route or whatever it is, and they'll go a little more in depth in the playbook.
Sure.
I think more for me than quote unquote vanilla play calling or whatever, it's the decision making at quarterback. Like at the end of the game, right?
Yeah.
And if I get ahead of myself, stop me. But the end of the game, right? We've got the ball. We're down by 6 points. There's under 2 minutes left. It's 3rd and 15, right? Situational football, in that case, you want to at least get like 7-8 yards, try and get yourself into like a 4th and 8, get half of it back at least if you can. And Fields just checked it down. And I don't know what other routes guys were running, but like in that situation, you either want to see him take a shot and try and pick it up, or at least like don't check it down in that situation. Like check down.
Yeah, that's like the least possible alternative.
Yeah.
Right?
Like I would have rather him thrown it down the field and thrown an interception, because at least he's going for it and trying to make a play and trying to pick up the first down. They were already losing, so throwing an interception there is like, whatever, you're still going to lose the game. And it's preseason, so it doesn't matter. But checking it down there is just like wimping out. I didn't understand that at all. And then, sorry, Ryan, just final point. I don't know if Justin Fields understands down and distance and situational football. And that kind of was a harbinger of, his downfall in Chicago too, that he made bad decisions at clutch moments. And I saw that again in this game. And I was like, ooh, that's not really boding well.
Go ahead, Scarps.
No, Ian, you're right. And Steelhead, you're right. You're both right. It's a repeated pattern of not understanding where you are short of the sticks. And like the joke on Steelers Twitter is 3rd down, throw short of the sticks. Well, that's what they do. And whether that's coaching or scheme or quarterback play, I really don't care at this point, because they need to figure it out regardless. And you're right. 3rd and 15, got to get half back. You throw a check down. It's like a first down. It's like a first down. Absolute don't want to but have to gain some yards on 3rd down when you absolutely need it. And to me, that's just a repeated pattern, regardless of who's coordinator. And I want to be fair to Arthur Smith. I really do.
You want to give him benefit of the doubt.
I do, but I still will believe that he was hired to try to salvage Kenny Pickett's career. He was the safe choice. He was the safe hire. And, regardless of what Steelers X wants to tell me, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt, but I really don't expect much from him.
Well,
this offense, go ahead.
Yeah.
I'm getting nervous.
I'm with you. I'm with you. I feel the same way. There is a. I went from being pretty excited about this season, to being very concerned all of a sudden. And I want to go to a couple of things. I think Freak said both of these. Discuss the possibilities before it could be a rough season. We'll come back to that. And then he just said Wilson and Fields both left better plays on the field. All 22 shows it. Absolutely, it does.
Yes, there were middle.
Yep.
I'm like Ben tonight. I'm going to be the Ben tonight.
You be the Ben tonight.
There were middle of the field throws that neither quarterback made, that they could have made, that would have put them in better positions. It could have converted first downs. And Steelers Freak, we know, we love you, but why are you playing it safe in preseason? Like, I don't understand. I just don't get it. Like,
don't you want your guy to play like he's going to play in the regular season?
Yes, and
I would,
and especially now because you only have 3 preseason games.
Yeah,
you have less training camp, you have less OTAs, you have less mini camp, you have less meaningful reps before the regular season, and I'm not saying the Steelers Freak is doing this, but I feel the Steelers fans in general try to mask that and say, oh, this isn't important. I think it's important. And the fact that Russell Wilson or Justin Fields aren't making those middle of the field reads means something. However, Kenny Pickett made middle of the field reads last preseason, and see what happened. But, is that a matter of, what they're seeing on defense? Is that a matter of what they're trying to, disguise? I don't know. But I will say that the quarterback room has absolutely been upgraded.
Yes.
And yet, so far, we've seen the same shit that we've seen over the past years.
It doesn't look any different.
Very frustrating.
I think Jen asks a really good question. If that is ruled a catch, I still think it was a catch, by the way. I don't care what anybody tells me. Does it change our perspective on Russell Wilson? And a little bit, because it's going to make his stats look a lot better. No doubt about it. But I think it also takes us into one of the other major topics, which is what in the hell happened to Broderick Jones? I mean, Greg Rousseau's a nice pass rusher. Don't get me wrong. But he's not Myles Garrett. He's not TJ Watt, not even close. And yes, there's no question that that he had a massive brace on his elbow. He cannot punch very well at all, which is a huge important thing for an offensive tackle in the pass pro to use. But even his run blocking did not seem very up to his standards, let's say. And to his credit, I'll give Broderick credit. He didn't make any excuses this week. He says it's not the injury. He said, I got to figure it out. Ian, what were you thinking watching those first few series? I mean, it was almost like you wanted to turn away.
It was bad. Everything was just off. His footwork was bad. His hand placement was bad. His timing was bad. And he acknowledged about the timing. He said, and I don't know if I fully believe what he said about the timing, but he was like, I got back in my set so quickly that it let the pass rusher initiate because I was already set, and I've got to time it better so that I get set when he's starting his move so I can react to it in time.
I didn't get that either.
I didn't either. That said, I don't know if the Steelers have done well by Broderick Jones. It almost reminds me of what they did with Sean Davis, where they were like, oh, we drafted you and you have some positional versatility, so we're going to try and play you at safety and corner. And with Broderick, I mean, he played left tackle all through college and high school.
Mm-hmm.
And he pretty much just played right tackle last year because they were mad that Chooks Okorafor said we should just take a knee because we're not doing anything on offense.
R.I.P. Chooks, am I right?
And, yeah, for real. And they plugged him in at right, and he was serviceable. But then he
was dominant as a run blocker. Yeah, he really was.
But then they went and named Troy Fatanu the starting right tackle. So, but now it's like, oh, but Fatanu's hurt and Dan Moore can't play anywhere but left tackle. I think they need to simplify it for the kid. I mean, let's be honest. They drafted him. He was young.
Yep.
And
he's
raw.
still young.
He's still young and still raw and still learning. That he was not a finished product. So I think they need to just plug him at left tackle and be like, this is your position. Just focus on this and do this and don't worry about playing right tackle. Because now it's like, well, if Fatanu can't play, Broderick's going to play right because Dan Moore can't play right and Dylan Cook's kind of hurt. So,
Yeah, he's in a boot, by the way.
I think they just need to rip the Band-Aid off the Dan Moore thing. I think I said this last week too. Just play Broderick at left tackle. Just play him at left.
And Ian, Steel Dad, totally agree with you. No, we sound like every other Steelers podcast out there. We just agree with
I know. We're not disagreeing nearly enough as we normally do.
So I'm going to take this a different way, and I'm going to say, okay, Dan Moore is a UFA. James Daniels is a UFA. And Nate Herbig is a UFA. Okay?
Yep.
Herbig's hurt.
Yep.
James Daniels is a starter. But Dan Moore is battling for a position with Broderick Jones.
Can we say he's battling? I think he's the starter at left tackle.
Who, Dan Moore?
Yeah,
I agree, and I just want to. So I agree with you, and I think that is fucking absurd to say. That is absurd because I don't think Dan Moore is a bad left tackle.
Mm-hmm.
I just think Broderick Jones has so much more potential. Now, is Broderick Jones hurt more than we've been told? Maybe. But I agree. They have done this is what blows my mind about the Steelers and other teams. Because Steelers aren't the only ones. They draft guys that have this high pedigree, and they're like, well, you've only played this position your whole life. Let's put you at this position and see how you do. And then they suck at it. And then the fans are like, oh, this guy sucks. Now, I don't think Broderick Jones sucks, but he's struggling at right tackle. He struggled at the end of season last year at right tackle. And it seems he has some elbow injury. It's not fair to him to be continually putting him in that position to defend himself when his natural position is left tackle, and they continue to be like, oh, well, he's going to fight with Dan Moore. Dan Moore is gone next year. Do you want to pay him? I don't.
Right. Yeah. Nick Faribault joined me earlier this week for about 20 minutes. And he, he's around this team every day at practice. He does a great job for Penn Live. And he flat out said what we've said, in that they're kind of doing him wrong. He's young. He's still raw. This was a kid at Georgia who dominated based on size and athleticism. Everybody knew coming into the NFL, he had all the tools. Now it was time to get technique and refine and do those things. And because of the fact that they continue to bounce him from left to right, left to right, left to right, and he said it, Nick had the quotes. and flat out talked about the fact I'm more comfortable on the left. My footwork's better there. I just feel stronger there. And again, the common fan goes, well, all you got to do is switch your feet around. It's different. Your punch is different. Everything is different. And I wish they would just settle on him. Ian, go ahead.
I remember, you could tell I had a comment here. I remember when Max Starks tried to switch, and Max, if I recall correctly, was left-handed, so he just preferred being a left tackle.
Yeah.
Or was it the other way? Was he right-handed?
Yeah, you're on the right track. I don't remember which was which.
But he said trying to play the other tackle was like trying to cut with scissors with your opposite hand. Like if you've ever tried to cut with scissors with your non-dominant hand, it's really friggin' hard.
It's very weird.
He said you got to do everything opposite, and I think I thought about that with Broderick too. That part of it was, if he's been practicing at left and focusing on left, and like I'm going to be the starter at left tackle because they said Fatanu is a starter at right. If you're practicing at left and working all that stuff, when you switch back to right, there's that split second where you have to think about it. Like the natural thing you've been practicing is with the left, but if you set like a left tackle with the one hand back and the one hand forward, you're going to get run over. But you got to think about it to switch when you're on the other side. And that split second for an NFL pass rusher, and like you say, Greg Rousseau is not a slouch.
No,
that split second's all a guy needs. And if your hands are in the wrong spot, all you got to do is slap him down. And he was just bull rushing. I mean, he wasn't like
nothing
making
tricky.
Complicated moves here. It was like slap his hands out of the way, push him back, and I'm going to get to the quarterback. So, yeah, I think some of it's the overthinking. Some of it is that it's just hard to go back and forth. That it's not easy, which is why those swing tackle guys that can come in and do both are actually quite valuable and make a decent amount of money.
We do, I think, sometimes underestimate that. What didn't Hubbard have that ability? Couldn't he play both when Hubbard was here? I think he was better on the right, but he had that ability.
Calvin
Beecham,
Hubbard,
and
when Hubbard could play both guard and tackle.
He could. Yeah, he could. And then one other thing, real quick, I'll go back to a comment Freak made about the potential of a really bad season here, and Nick and I did talk about that, more specifically about the quarterbacks, because you could have a situation where Russell Wilson isn't it, and Justin Fields isn't it, and you could have a completely new quarterback room again. Well, okay, are you going to want to do that again with Arthur Smith? I mean, there's all kinds of questions there. Now, when we talk about a bad season, what does that even mean? I mean, it could be 8-9, and as we've talked about, regress to the mean because we won all those close games last year. Maybe we don't win them this year. But it is something that I think has to be considered. I think we're going to be okay, but there's got to be some improvement pretty damn quick. I'm
old enough to remember when certain segments of Steelers Twitter thought that 9-6-1 was rock bottom, and I was like, my dudes, you have never seen 6-10.
No,
and it's in Steelers
7-9.
Yeah. It's been worse than 6-10, but man, that 6-10 year before we drafted Ben was rough. That was a rough year.
And what was the year after Super Bowl 40? Is that the year that Santonio scored like an overtime in the finale to get us to 8-8 or something like that?
Yeah.
I mean, that was. If people want to see bad, I mean, and I think we're a ways from that.
We're better than that 2003 Steelers team that went 6-10.
Yeah. There's better talent here. Scarps, how concerned are you about Jaylen Warren perhaps not being available week 1?
For fantasy purposes, I'm concerned. And Ben's on the show tonight.
Speaking of, I think we still have 2 spots available in our fantasy football league. And I'll let Ian post that up in the chat if you wanted to get in. It's for bragging rights and some SCB podcast swag. Other than that, it's just for fun, everybody.
Yeah.
Scarps, go ahead.
Yeah, Ryan, make your point. I'll post in the chat.
I'm not concerned about it, but
Okay.
I will say, and I'm going to die on this hill, that the Steelers are going to have so many people getting touches and targets this year. It's going to be ridiculous. And that's the Arthur Smith offense. So we think Pat Freiermuth is going to have some amazing year. Well, neither quarterback wants to throw in the middle of the field.
No.
No. So, is that open it up for Scotty Miller, Cordell Patterson, Jalen Warren when he gets healthy? Maybe. I don't know. I think this offense this year, you got to expect the unexpected and see what happens. Because I literally, as much as I think Najee is going to have a good year, I could see him and Jalen and Cordell Patterson splitting touches and yards.
Mm-hmm.
And that's absurd to say, but I don't know what to expect with Arthur Smith. I don't
think anybody does. And I think it's totally acceptable to not know.
Yeah.
Ian, what are your thoughts on Jalen Warren's potential absence from week 1?
It worries me because he's our most explosive threat out of the backfield. So
and I'll add on to that. It also concerns me because if you look at some of the plays he made, especially in the second half of the season last year, where it was a dump down on a third down, he didn't look like he had a chance in hell of getting to the first down line, and he did. And now you lose that ability. That scares me too.
So what you're saying, Mark, is that if our quarterbacks are going to throw short check down plays, we need some of those explosive dumps to get first downs.
Yes. And that's what worries me not having him. Because
Mark
be honest,
is worried about explosive dumps. Let's write this down.
And I've had many of those. Pat Freiermuth is not going to be explosive and get you that first down. No offense, Pat Freiermuth, but it's just
but Pat Freiermuth has that very unique ability that we've talked about before to kind of have that sixth sense of the quarterback's in trouble. I need to get open. I know where to go to help him find me to get open to make a play. And I'm not sure if anybody else really has that. There were a lot of times last year where the play broke down and you saw all of the wide receivers, whether they are still with the team or not with the team or in Carolina, just kind of standing around and not working back to get open. Whereas Freiermuth is a guy that will kind of continue to work and try and get open and does that for his quarterback. So he does have that. But I think to the point about Jalen Warren, that this was a team last year that was extremely limited on big explosive plays until Mason Rudolph came in at quarterback and decided, I can actually throw the ball down the field. So YOLO, I'm going to do it. And they actually started to put up some points and it paid off big time and it got them to the playoffs. So Russell Wilson will throw the ball down the field. So will Justin Fields. But I think you need those guys that can get those yards after the catch, that can turn short plays into big plays.
Absolutely.
Or even just turn an outside zone running play into a 70-yard touchdown like he did against Cleveland.
Yep.
So,
because I think we all know Najee's not going to do that.
No, Najee's definitely not going to do
that. Speaking of the receivers, Scarps, do you think Scotty Miller makes the roster?
How does he not? I mean, depending on what happens, I don't know. There's still talk of Brandon Ayuk coming here, and I think that's all bullshit. But I don't know how Scotty Miller doesn't make the roster.
I don't either. Right now, he makes the roster. I think Roman Wilson's looking good, but I don't know what you can count on him. He's
You know,
missed.
and I would say earlier this week, Ray Fittipaldo from the Post-Gazette offered his opinion on Roman Wilson and said he would be surprised if Roman Wilson started this year on IR. Now, Steelers Twitter didn't like hearing that. I'm sure you can imagine.
Of course not.
But if Roman Wilson isn't ready, isn't healthy, why would you waste an inactive spot on the roster for him when you could sign somebody off the street or whatever? So, yeah, at least for the time being, I think Scotty Miller has a roster spot. And let's talk about Brandon Ayuk.
Sure.
Continue conversation about Brandon Ayuk.
Have we mentioned him in recent shows?
I've never heard of this guy before.
Yeah,
tonight.
just all started recently.
There's continued conversation that if San Francisco didn't up their offer, and Steelers fans are doing whatever they can to convince themselves that he's going to be here. I still don't see it. I'm going to stand by that.
Yep.
And if I'm Scotty Miller right now, or Van Jefferson, or Roman Wilson, or is Quez Watkins, is he still on our team?
He is still there.
That's no disrespect, but if I'm anybody other than George Pickens, I have a good vibe right now about I'm going to make the team, because it is so bad after George Pickens. And I've said this on the show. I don't think George Pickens is that great. After George Pickens, though,
I think George Pickens is an exceptionally athletic freak. I don't know how good of a wide receiver he really is.
I absolutely do not disagree.
That's the way I view him. Can he catch a slant and take it 80 yards? Absolutely. But at the same time, I look at it. There was one particular play last week where Russell Wilson, I want to say they were
easy,
5 wide.
Steelers freak, easy. Okay,
they were 5 wide. What did I miss?
Out much anymore? Okay, I got my times.
They were 5 wide, 3 receivers to the top, and then you had a running back and tight end to the bottom. Okay, and I believe it was 3rd and something, maybe 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9, and Pickens was in the slot, lined up on a linebacker. All right. And Dan Orlovsky, ESPN, specifically talked about this. I was watching it, and it was really good. And he's like, look, you've got it. This is like a flashing light. Boom, 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 boom. I got Pickens on a linebacker. Here it is. Let's go. And he beats the linebacker right off the line. Jukes right, cuts back left. He's wide open over the middle. And Russell stared down the wide out to the right, who was just kind of running a little 7-yard comeback, threw it out there, caught, tackled, short of the first down, we punt. And those are the things that if I'm George Pickens, I'm frustrated by, because it's reasons like me, some idiot sitting in a studio, say, well, I think he's really athletic. I don't know what kind of receiver he really truly is. Maybe he hasn't been given the chance. I mean, he ran a perfect route in that situation and didn't even get looked at.
That's a fair point.
Yeah, I'm just throwing it out there.
I think a lot of how this season goes depends on how George Pickens' relationship with his quarterback is. Because last year you saw him having some sideline meltdowns when a certain quarterback from the University of Pittsburgh was playing. But
Matt Cavanaugh, everyone.
Yes. But then later, when a quarterback from Oklahoma State was playing, George Pickens got one target in the season finale against Baltimore and didn't throw a fit, came out after the game and was like, winning this game was the most important thing. And if I'm drawing double teams and that opens other people up, and the difference was honestly the quarterback was, Mason being like, hey, listen, I'd love to get you the ball, but you're being double teamed and other guys are open, but that's helping us win. And Pickens is smart enough to understand that. And if his relationship with his quarterback is good, and he trusts that quarterback. I don't think he trusted Pickett, and he definitely didn't trust Trubisky.
No, I agree.
I don't think anyone in that locker room liked Trubisky, to be honest with you. I mean, putting aside the rumor of Deontay Johnson punching him during that Jets game. But nevertheless, I think if Pickens has a good relationship with his quarterback, and I think Russell, throwing up balls to him on the sideline, like Russ used to do with DK Metcalf, is going to help Pickens a lot, and he's going to get those opportunities. And Russ is going to throw the ball. So we saw it we saw it this week. Russ is like, yeah, George is down there. I'll throw it up and see if he can get it. He did.
And more often than not, he's going to get it. You know, is he going to get it in bounds? I mean, that's the question. Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah. Do you guys? I was looking at the depth chart, and again, anytime you talk about Mike Tomlin and the Steelers depth charts, you take it with a grain of salt. But one thing I noticed is that in the discussions of the fullback position, they do have Connor Hayward listed as the third tight end and the first fullback. That tells me right there that Jack Coletto probably isn't going to make the roster. Even though there's been a lot of discussion about how much they've utilized him during camp and in the preseason. So I found that a bit curious. I also noticed, what was the other thing? Of course, now I can't. Oh, Corey Trice has had a really nice last couple weeks. And with Dante Jackson out, I guess he's been playing pretty well. Nick said he was doing really, really well in practice. And we knew he had talent, just he couldn't stay healthy, so the depth chart again is what it is. But and yes, Bill, to your point, I don't think he trusted Matt Canada. I don't think anybody trusted Matt Canada. I don't know if Matt Canada trusted Matt Canada. Yeah. So where I was going with all that depth chart talk was, any guys right now that you think are going to be surprise cuts? And when I say surprise cuts, maybe just a cut that most people don't see coming.
I think you're right about Coletto. I think he's a practice squad guy.
Yeah.
I think the interesting thing to me is what they do at running back, especially if Warren is not available for week 1.
Agreed.
Because some of these down the depth chart guys have shown some flashes in preseason of being capable and at least worthy of potential practice squad consideration. So it's going to be interesting to see, if they decide to keep another running back, or if they do. Earlier you mentioned about Roman Wilson starting on IR, that I think if you want to put a guy on IR, you have to keep him on the active roster for the 53-man cuts, and then put him on IR if you want to bring him back this year. Like, they could put Herbig on IR now, but he'd be out the whole year.
Right.
So they could keep Wilson on the 53 and then put him on IR, which opens up a spot, and they could re-sign Dewan Edwards or LaMichael Pirine or someone like that, or Jonathan Ward or Aaron Shampklin. Like, all of those guys have shown flashes. They have really interesting.
I think,
especially if Warren's not available for week 1, you could re-sign one of those guys. I think if you want to talk about surprise cuts, I think we have 8 defensive linemen for 7 spots, so somebody's going to get cut. I mean, Hayward, Benton, Ogunjobi are locks. But after that, Lowry, Adams, Leal, Loudermilk, Logan Lee. They just drafted Logan Lee, but he was a late round pick, so sometimes that's a cut and go on the practice squad for the first year. Leal's played really well, and he's dropped some weight, and he actually could wind up being the 4th outside linebacker.
And he played it on Saturday night.
Yeah, although Johnson and Moon have both shown some flashes there too. But I really think it might be like Loudermilk versus Montravius Adams for the last roster spot, and either one getting cut would probably be a surprise. But I don't think there's enough roster spots to keep both of them.
I agree with Claude. I think Loudermilk is a surprise only in the sense that, I mean, when you think back a couple of years, didn't they trade up to get him?
They traded a future pick to get him. Yeah.
To get him. And I thought there were flashes there, and then it just doesn't click with the guy. I don't know. Scarps, is there any potential surprise cuts at all?
Louder milk, more like softer milk. I'm fucking drunk. I don't care. But I'm very interested to see what they do at wide receiver. If they don't get Ayuk, and I still don't think I just, especially now. I just want to say this, especially now after seeing what they've done these 2 preseason games. Is Brandon Ayuk going to be that big of a difference this year?
Well, I'm glad you said that, because that's exactly where I was going. Based on what I've seen out of this offensive line, you could put Jerry Rice and anyone else from the Hall of Fame out there at wide receiver. It ain't going to matter because they can't block. So,
yeah, I mean, this team is fundamentally flawed on offense, as we've grown accustomed to. And then you're going to pay Brandon Ayuk $30 million a year, and you still don't know who the quarterback is next year. I don't know.
That too. And furthermore, why would Brandon Ayuk want to come to this situation?
Because he wants to play for Mike Tomlin like everybody else does. What does that mean when it comes to championships? It doesn't mean shit.
I mean,
because how many people want to play for Mike Tomlin but don't win playoff games for Mike Tomlin? I'm just being honest.
You're spot on. I mean, Ayuk has played in Super Bowls. He's got another chance at one this year, and now all of a sudden it's I'm going to go take the money, play for Mike Tomlin, and
Well, Pro Football Talk just reported that the trade to the Commanders is now back on.
I knew it. They traded Dotson. See.
So I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna say this on the show.
Yeah.
And
you're on the show.
You're on the show.
Yeah, I'm saying this on the show. And if I'm wrong, and first of all, okay, can I just say this real quick?
Yes.
Last week, to our viewers who are wonderful, I had some drinks, and I said that Russell Wilson is going to throw 32 touchdowns this year.
You did.
I would like to scratch that in reverse, Willy Wonka style.
Oh, really?
I'm scared. I am scared that Russell Wilson is not what he used to be. So I'm going to say this lightly this time about the Steelers wide receiver situation and Brandon Ayuk. Do we really want to pay a wide receiver $30 million on an offense that really just isn't good? And we're just hoping that he's going to be that difference maker. And then his cap and his cash is going. Thanks, Philip. And his cap, that might be Russell Wilson right there. Thank you, Russ, for tuning in. But you're going to pay Brandon Ayuk $30 million a year. And then how are we going to pay a quarterback next year? And people are going to be like, oh, they have cap space. They're literally second to last in the league in cash spent so far this fiscal year or this season. So like it just doesn't add up. So
no,
I
don't get it. I think the Washington jumping back in. I don't know what Omar Khan has offered. Jerry Dulac, who's as tied into the organization as anybody is, says there's no players involved, which is fine. But at the same time, that means you're putting in a lot of picks. and potentially some high ones. And I'm just not crazy about giving a lot of high ones away. If I'm going to pay a guy $30 million, as Scarps, as you pointed out, I need a quarterback too. I don't know. Yeah. This week they go into Detroit, and again, as we said at the top of the show, it sounds like Detroit's going to go mostly reserves, whereas the Steelers will be playing significant ones. No, I don't want to give any high ones away there, Ian. Thank you. Yeah.
Freak is not in danger of being traded.
No, he's not. No, we've got to see what kind of offer we're getting. Maybe they offer, player to be named later, something like that. I don't know.
All right, hold on. Can I go on a tangent here?
Sure.
Ryan, do you remember a couple years ago when the Pirates had a bunch of injuries and they traded for some dude from Tampa Bay for a player to be named later, and then traded him back to Tampa Bay, and he was the player to be named later? Like, they literally just borrowed him for 3 weeks.
Yes. The Chris Archer deal, right?
No, it wasn't the Archer deal. It was a separate deal. It was
okay.
They were like,
still, yeah.
I think they were like short on relief pitchers or something, and they were like, we're going to trade for this guy for a player to be named later, and then they traded him back to Tampa, and we're like, oh, he was the player to be named later. Like, it was the same guy.
Yeah.
Baseball has those kind of quirky things that they allow that, I don't know. Zach Frazier, you guys I think we're all on board. We thought he was probably going to start at center one way or the other. I thought he was very respectful and gracious talking this week about, the fact that earning the starting job this way is not what he would ever want. Said that Nate Herbig has helped him a lot and just feels awful in that sense. But also, if you look back at his collegiate career at West Virginia, it started very much the same way. He came in for an injured guy and never left. And so maybe that's a positive sign of things to come for him. I guess my next question, Ian, plays? Yeah, go ahead.
I would say I have more comfort with Frazier at center than with Herbig because Frazier's just done the snapping more.
Yes.
So even though Herbig's been in the league longer, I have more comfort with Frazier.
Yeah. And, Omar was like, oh, we're comfortable with Nate Herbig at center. And I was like, yeah, you're full of shit, Omar. You don't watch film. I get it.
I guess the big question now is who's the backup if something happens to Frazier?
Let's talk about that.
Well, Spencer Anderson's been working there a little bit. Mason McCormick has been working there a little bit.
Yeah, fourth round guy from fucking North Dakota Central State, South Dakota University.
One of those directionals. It's a good directional though. But actually, then James Daniel probably has the most experience there, but I don't think they're in any rush to play him there.
No, if they were going to play James Daniels at center, they would have moved him there last year. No, I think, and Ryan McCollum's played there a little bit too.
Yeah, and he's pretty much strictly a center.
Yeah. Actually, McCormick has been better than I thought he would be. We've been pretty hard on Mason McCormick on this show.
It hasn't been too big for him.
No, it hasn't.
Yeah,
I think
which we thought it might be.
He's playing against fucking third stringers and fourth stringers. It's like Kenny Pickett playing against 12th stringers, right? Am I wrong? Okay.
No, I know. I totally understand what you're saying.
Yeah. No, I think he makes the team though. Like,
Mason McCormick.
Yeah.
Oh, I agree.
He's easy to make the team. Yeah. I mean, I think if you go back to when we drafted him, and Ben made the points as subtly as he could, in that McCormick was a guy who dominated against a lot of smaller dudes in the FCS, and now he's going to be going up against significantly heavier dudes who also happen to be even more athletic, and it's a viable concern. And so is what Scarp said. He's also been going up against third, fourth team guys right now, but based on what I've seen so far, I'm pretty good with it. Does that mean it's going to translate? Should he have to play against the ones? I don't know. I don't know. But they've got to just solve things on the offensive line, period. I mean, this offense isn't going to go anywhere until they get that shit figured out. Ian?
Yeah. Well, the other thing I was thinking about was, traditionally they keep 9 or 10 offensive linemen. So you start counting numbers and you're like, okay, Broderick, James Daniels, Herbig, I think they have to keep on the roster. Well, I guess they could put him on IR now. So they may not have to keep him, but still, all right. Mm-hmm. Broderick Daniels, Sayamalu, Dan Moore, Fatanu, Frazier, McCormick. That's 7. So then, Dylan Cook, do you need another backup tackle? Although Cook's been hurt, you probably need a backup center. So, I didn't count Spencer Anderson in there, who's another backup guard. McCollum, if you need another backup center, it's those last couple offensive line spots are going to be interesting.
It's constant shuffling, It's,
and if it's one of those things where they keep Herbig on the 53 and then put him on IR, and that opens up another spot. Who do they think can get through waivers that they can re-sign? Which I think McCollum could get through waivers and they could re-sign him. But you could probably find a backup center from another team that gets cut that you could sign also. I mean,
you look back in the days. Who was the guy we signed to come in right after Pouncey got hurt? Velasco. Is that his name?
Fernando Velasco. Yeah.
And then Cody Wallace. He
did a serviceable job.
Yeah.
What'd you say, Scarps?
Then Cody Wallace.
Yeah. So I agree with you. There's guys out there. What do you want to pay for him?
Not Mason Cole, who's lost 100 pounds.
Yeah, Mason Cole is half of what he used to be in just 6 months.
There are guys out there, and then there are guys out there that can fit the Arthur Smith scheme, right?
Yeah, that's true.
He's looking for lengthy, athletic, sideline to sideline kind of guys that can stretch the play. I don't know. There's no. So I look at it. I look at this as on the offensive line. There's no Joe Hayden type, right? There's no Joe Hayden type to find on the offensive line. A wide receiver, I think there could be a Joe Hayden type of guy that they could find and add.
Yeah, I do too.
We'll see.
Yeah, I do too. Let me go back to the quarterbacks for a minute. I meant to bring this up when we were talking about them earlier. I'll use my own take here as an example and then let you guys take it from there. Since Wilson and Fields have both joined the Steelers, I've been of the mind that this has been Wilson's job since day one. After what I saw last weekend, I will admit there is part of me that wonders, would the offense be better off with Fields just simply because of his ability to run? I'm willing to admit also that also means some limitations with what you do offensively too. Where are you guys on the quarterback thing right now? Ian?
It's 100% it's 100% Wilson, and Fields is the backup. And no, I would play Fields in certain situations, but I think you have to know what those situations are and what you're asking him to do. And what happened on that one fourth down is just haunting me. That it's if you put Justin Fields in the goal line and ask him to run a read option play, everybody's going to know he's going to keep the ball, and then you're going to have him 1-on-5. So
isn't that the job of the offensive coordinator to be creative there though?
I think so. Yeah.
You would hope.
Yeah. Aaron brings up an interesting question about Fields' missed touchdown. On the replay, it did kind of look like the wide receiver slowed down a little bit in his route, that if he had kept running. That said, Fields did throw it on a frozen rope, that if he puts a little air under the ball and gives the receiver a chance to make an adjustment, maybe, I mean, the receiver had his guy beat. He had him smoked. Yep. It did look like he slowed down, though. So there is a little bit, I think, on the receiver there. It's not entirely on Fields, but, I think in the NFL, that's a throw and catch that has to be made, right?
Yeah.
And whether it's Fields making the throw or the receiver making the catch, like if that's George Pickens, that's a catch 10 times out of 10. But
Luther reminded me of that kid in the playground that just thinks that his athleticism is so superior that he can just stop, jump, and catch the ball instead of just continuing to run.
Yes.
And so I think there was a little bit of culpability on both sides there, but largely it just looked to me like the receiver just stopped running too soon and tried to jump. But I don't know.
Fields does have an absolute cannon for an arm.
Oh man, you cannot deny the tools of Justin Fields.
Yeah,
I mean you just can't. Scarps, did you think Wilson? To me, he looked like he was really trying to throw the ball hard the other night. I mean, it was like he was really almost shot putting it to get it there quicker. I don't know. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I hadn't seen him in a while, and that's why it looked that way.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to say he's ever looked like normal throwing the ball.
Well, that's a good point.
But yeah, he looked like he was really struggling to throw the ball. I don't know. If Pickens, whether you believe it's a catch or not, if they call that a catch, I think people think differently about Russell Wilson, but I'm not ready to crowd Justin Fields. I'm just not.
No, I'm not ready either. I think I need to see more of Russell Wilson. Especially this weekend.
We'll see it. We'll see. Yeah, Saturday afternoon, not night.
My gut feeling is we'll probably see first quarter Wilson, second quarter Fields, second half Kyle Allen. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, they should not be playing Justin Fields in the fourth quarter.
No. And I don't see any reason to play the Plumlee kid at all at quarterback.
No. I don't think he's making the team.
No, I don't think he is either. They've toyed with him as a returner. It's great. They're keeping the kid busy, but I don't think I would mess with it unless something happened to Allen or something. Then maybe you play him in the second half. But I do believe that offensive line is going to get a lot of time on Saturday. I would be very surprised if they didn't. Any other items to discuss this evening, gents? With Ben not here, we get through material much quicker.
We do. The only thing we haven't really talked about is slot cornerback, but I don't really know who plays the nickel. I mean,
so
good question.
Bishop's played there. They played that Arnold kid. Sutton's not going to be available for 8 weeks. So
why isn't Sutton available?
Suspension.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Well, so they obviously
whatever.
Bishop was a bit of a surprise that he didn't play last week. I texted Alan Saunders and he didn't even know why. They just saw him on the sideline in street clothes, and they're like, "Yeah, we don't know." And now, of course, according to Tomlin, he tweaked something, and they just didn't want to put him out there. So I think it's Thomas Graham got some time, and he was okay. But I think they'll play that big nickel type stuff, as kind of a backup plan. But I can see them going after somebody in when the cuts come down on Tuesday.
Yeah. Oh, I absolutely
I really can. Good question, George. Mark Robinson, does he make the cut? Well, let's start it off here. Landon Roberts is going to be there. Patrick Queen's going to be there, and Peyton Wilson's going to be there.
Yes.
I think he makes it. They love him on special teams, and he's obviously limited. He's a run stuffer. That's what he does, and not so good in pass protection. But I don't know. But I think he makes it. I'm just trying to think of some other guys that might be on that.
Well, It's really Matakevich versus Robinson for the last inside linebacker spot because Cole Holcomb's not going to be healthy for
That's
the start of the
true.
season.
And Matakevich is definitely in the knot.
He's making the team. That's true. I forgot about Dirty Red being back.
Although the other question is what happens with Cole Holcomb, like we've talked about with the IR stuff, right? Like,
right.
If you put a guy on IR now, I think he has to miss the whole season. Versus if you keep him on the 53, you could bring him back at some point during the year.
Right.
So I mean, they could have 3 or 4 guys that they keep on the 53-man roster that they then put on IR with the intention of bringing back at some point, and then like refill roster spots once guys either clear waivers or whatever else happens, a couple days later. So as we say every year, like the 53-man roster out of training camp is never the same as the 53-man roster that goes into Sunday of week 1.
Changes drastically.
Yeah.
Real quick, Philip, we talked a little bit about Coletto at the beginning, and our feeling right now is he probably does not, just based on the depth chart, which I know it's worth the paper it's written on, but they've got Hayward at the 3rd tight end, but they've also got him as the number 1 fullback right now, which kind of tells me Coletto probably not going to make the roster. God, what were we just talking? The linebackers.
Claude asked for one of our Steel City Blitz shirts that has our faces on it.
Claude, you're a gentleman and a scholar for one of those.
I will talk to Dan over at DC4L Custom Tees. I think we can do it. Yeah, those are classics, man. We might have to autograph that and send it out to you.
I was stunned that we produced a shirt with my face on it. So cheers, Claude.
Shirt with any of our faces on it. Are you kidding me? It's got to be one of the uglier shirts in the history of shirts. Yeah. Just speaking the truth here. God dang it. I had a good point here, but we were talking Robinson and Dirty Red and stuff here. Let me see here. What was it?
Yeah. And
damn, I can't find it.
Yeah. It's really just a numbers game for how things play out. And they could, if they think DeMarvin Leal can be the 4th outside guy, like they could just keep 3 outside guys and keep an extra inside guy. And
possible.
There's a lot to play out here over the next week. But remember too, the last couple spots on the roster are always determined by special teams.
Yes.
And the things to look for are who's playing gunner on special teams, who's making tackle on special teams. Who's making tackles on special teams.
Mm-hmm.
I've had some drinks. I'm on vacation. Who's making tackles on special teams? And third, who's committing penalties on special teams? Because those guys are.
That's a good point. That's a big factor.
The guys that commit penalties, Tomlin hates that. So,
I did see they released Anthony Everett this week. Which I wasn't totally surprised by. The other guy that I thought was going to make this roster, and now I really don't know, is Darius Rush. He has had kind of a poor preseason. Man, he started off like the first game. He basically made the opening tackle on his own guy on the kickoff. And has just kind of looked out of sorts ever since then. And obviously with Trice being healthy and playing well, that certainly changes that dynamic a little bit too. But George, our punter, is the MVP of this team right now. That's what I think of our punter, Bill Burr. I mean, the dude averaged 5 punts, 59 yards per punt last week. He's got a freaking cannon in that leg.
You know who else is having a good preseason in punting? Presley Harwin III.
Of course. I'm sure he'll be an all-pro. Where is he, the Rams?
No, San Francisco, I think. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
If we had kept him, we could have traded him for Brandon Ayuk.
Yeah.
Oh, well. Another mess up. Yeah.
No, I think actually in the secondary, Ryan Watts has shown me more than I thought that he had at this point.
I agree, and bubble guy, but I They don't like the guys they draft.
For being a late round pick, yeah, I think he's got a shot. I think the thing with Rush though is if you don't keep Rush, the guys on the roster at cornerback right now, I mean, you're looking at Joey Porter Jr., Dante Jackson, Corey Trice, Beanie Bishop. Beanie Bishop would be the fourth corner that you keep. And I mean, they've kept 6 corners in the past.
And he's strictly a slot.
Right.
On the boundary.
And they have to keep a slot. But I mean, if you're only talking about keeping 4 corners, you got to go out and sign 1 to 2 more just to fill out your roster.
Because you've got your safeties, right? I mean, obviously you've got Elliott, Fitzpatrick, Deshaun Elliott, or excuse me, I already said him, KZ,
yes.
and Killebrew.
Yes.
There's your
maybe
4 right there.
Maybe Ryan Watts,
and that's too. Right. Do they? I wonder if they think enough of him at cornerback. They really haven't seen it, but
yeah.
So it's Tuesday is the cut day. I think it's 4 p.m. Eastern is when teams have to have their rosters at 53 and then establish their practice squads. But as Ian said, this thing will be in flux literally within minutes of it coming out, because teams will start picking up other guys from across the league. Excuse me. And, it just goes from there.
Sorry, I don't remember what the timeline is. Because I think you got to keep a guy, and then I think it's 24 hours that later then you designate him to go to IR, and then there's there's a waiver period too for the guys you cut that go on waivers.
Yep.
And so basically from Tuesday when cuts happen until a week and a half later when the NFL season kicks off on Thursday night, everything is in flux and things can change at a moment's notice. So
you're already seeing you had Dotson traded from Washington. There was a trade between Seattle and somebody else, I think, for a cornerback today. So I think teams are already starting to recognize hey, we're going to cut this guy. Let's put him out there on the market. Maybe somebody throws us a bone, 6th, 7th round draft pick, that type of thing. And if that's happening already, then it's going to be absolutely nuts by Sunday and Monday when the preseason ends, and they got to have those rosters solidified by Tuesday. So I don't know. Anything else before we get to Mr. Casey Kasem tonight?
Are we doing Casey?
I thought Casey was here tonight.
He's always here in spirit.
Oh, he's always here somewhere, haunting our dreams. Casey, go ahead. Take it away.
Oh, God. This is listen, I'm embarrassed.
What?
Just let me be my feels still, Dad.
Okay. Right. Fair enough.
Casey's Coast to Coast. American Top 40. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the week that was August 22nd, 1989. Our favorite correspondent, Ryan, is back again with us this week, and he writes, Dear Casey, he was on his way home from Candletop. Been 2 weeks gone, and he thought he'd stop at Webb's to have a drink before he went home to her. Casey, that's, of course, The Nights the Lights Went Out in Georgia by Vicki Lawrence. A song that made its way up to number 1 on the Billboard charts in 1973. Casey, I'm sure you know all about Vicki Lawrence for the Carol Burnett Show and Mama's Family. But did you know that this hit single was written by her first husband, Bobby Russell?
I didn't know that.
No. You see, Bobby Russell was an American singer and songwriter. He wrote his hit singles over several genres. And at this point in his career, I might add, he died in 1992. Bobby Russell, although dead, might throw more touchdown passes this year than Russell Wilson. Yeah, this is not going to go well. I know it's only preseason, Casey. But I know Russ is going to ride somewhere. It might be to Buffalo for a playoff game. Maybe it's the Kansas City. But I fear he may be riding out of Pittsburgh faster than Kenny Pickett when he hears the word competition. Casey?
Wow.
I'm getting it back. I'm bringing it back. Casey, if Russ isn't washed, perhaps he's on the spin cycle where you don't really know if your clothes are washed or are still dirty. It's like playing pool with Rashard Mendenhall. There's always an I can't do this right now.
This might be a first. He can't get through Casey.
Even Atlanta Scarps got through Casey.
Atlanta Scarps got through Casey.
It's a good. I forgot I wrote this. I got a cramp.
We got a Charlie horse on the podcast. Okay, deep breaths.
Yeah, try.
Rashard Mendenhall played pool.
It's like playing pool. I can't do it.
Now, see, I'd finish for him, but I don't get an advanced copy.
That's what she said. It's like playing pool with Rashard. It's like playing pool with Rashard Mendenhall, Casey. It's always. There's always an extra stick and 2 balls. I hate myself for it. Now here's a guy that can't read his Casey, Jed. I apologize. It's like, let's see if I can do this. It's like playing pool with Rashard Mendenhall. There's always an extra stick and 2 balls. But I'm serious. But I'm serious when I ask this. What if Russ is indeed washed? Casey, last week my letter, I told you Russ is going to throw 32 touchdowns. Looking back on that, I had drinks. I have high hopes for him, sure, but I fear I'm cramped. But that Russ is cooking. Oh, I'm cramped. Need some Gatorade. I'm serious. I got a stomach cramp. It hurts so bad. Ugh. Here, let me pull my hands away. Give me a second. I'm seriously cramped. I need some electrolytes.
Yeah.
But I fear that Russ is. But I fear this is working. But I fear that Russ is cooking. Now means he's heating up some frozen mozzarella sticks you got at the grocery store and you didn't want, and you waited too long to bring them out of the oven, and they're as hard as a rock. You know what? I'm done with Casey right now. I'm cramping up. I'm just gonna be honest. This is horrible. I'm sorry.
Let it be.
Give me a minute, and I'll get to the song eventually. Just
all right.
Let's talk. I'm gonna talk about yourselves.
We're gonna give Casey Kasem just a quick minute here to get the Charlie horses out.
Tapping out on Casey.
And for those watching, I am so sorry. This is just not a good day for me.
I mean, you know, the number of people that tune in strictly for Casey Kasem have to be very severely disappointed tonight.
Let's see if I can get this back. Give me a minute here.
Yeah,
okay?
Yeah. Scarps was not in shape today.
Talk amongst yourselves.
Didn't get his workout in, and so now he's cramping. And I mean, he's not even done. Claude, you're right. It was good. In fact, it was going to be great. And, you know, then
I think the problem was that Ryan wrote something so good, he forgot to take his Midol before the show. So now
clearly Clearly, Aaron is watching on TV, and we've now scarred his wife. George, intermission. Yes, this is the first ever intermission of Casey Kasem.
It's the preseason for us, too. I'm on vacation, and I bothered to tune in, whereas Ben had to listen to, like, ripped CDs of a Dave Matthews cover band, so he couldn't tune in tonight. So,
yeah, which he's probably doing that right now.
Yeah, exactly.
It's so bad we lost Scarps on video. He's probably standing up right now in the middle of his basement doing some kind of Jack LaLanne exercises to try to, see?
Ryan's doing calisthenics. Ryan is trying to improve the lives of all our viewers by showing them proper calisthenics material. He's also talking while on mute, so
I think you're muted, bub. You are.
God damn! I'm like Jane Fonda trying to avoid Vietnam. Oh God, it hurts my. Hold on. Okay, here, let's see if I can do this.
Okay.
Richard,
I've had high hopes for Russell Wilson, but I fear that Russ cooking now means he heats from frozen mozzarella sticks. You got at the grocery store and you wait too long to bring them out of the oven. And they're as hard as a rock, but you have no choice but eat them because you've been drinking since noon and it's 9 p.m. Russ, if I could turn back time. Well, Ryan, keep your feet on the ground, keep reaching for the stars, and keep up the calisthenics because you're out of shape, and keep your radio tune right where it is. Up 4 spots to number 17 this week. Here's Cher with Turn Back Time. Basically, if you didn't follow the whole thing, the point was we want Russell Wilson to be where he used to be. And to do that, we need to turn back time. So thank you, Cher, for writing that song in 1989.
Yeah. And strutting around on the deck of the USS Missouri, I believe it was, wearing pretty much nothing. Thanks, Cher. I think that's what it was.
I'm struggling right now. Folks.
Yeah. We're. I think we need to get some pickle juice or something for Ryan there. But
shit! I apologize, fans.
Oh no! No need necessary. That was
terrible.
Shit. Anyway, thanks everybody as always for joining us while we do this live, and thanks everybody who takes time to watch and listen afterwards. Steelers play at Detroit 1 p.m. Yeah, don't forget that's an afternoon game this weekend, 1 p.m. in Detroit. And then we'll be able to start talking roster stuff and get ready for the season opener in Atlanta coming up. For these guys and the absent Ben, this is Steel Dad signing off. And hey, go Steelers.
The Ravens suck, as does Ben, who couldn't bother.
I ruined the show. Tonight. That's my bad. Sorry.